Hi everyone. I hope everyone stayed safe with the tornadoes and bad weather that came through yesterday. It got quite scary where I am, and I know that there were a lot of you who were also sort of in the same path trajectory. So I hope that everybody's okay, and I hope that me canceling class helped you focus on your safety and helped you be more aware of what was going on around you. So, our lecture this week is really relatively short. What I wanted to do yesterday was decompress from our Project 2 and to talk a little bit about that and introduce to you Project 3, which we'll talk about in a second. And then kind of go into what I'm asking you to do with these reading clusters and what that all entails. So what I've done, because these videos cap at 15 minutes, I've split this into two different sections. So this is going to be the lecture component. I'm going to skip Project 3 Introduction and the New Timeline for the rest of the semester and go straight into the lecture. And then the second video is going to go through Project 3 and the new timeline for the semester. So make sure that you're watching both of those videos. Okay, so Project 2 Decompression. Last time we did a decompression, we used Zoom and we used the poll. This time I emailed you a Google form or Google Doc to complete. So, like I said, this is completely anonymous. I would really be grateful if everyone did it. It's a chance for you to get your voice out there. Like I said before, these are useful to me and to other faculty members at the end of the semester as we all think individually and then collectively about how the semester went, what could have been done better, and using those things to influence how we plan for next semesters and future semesters. So please take a moment and go through that. It's all open-ended, so you'll type in your answer. And remember that this is anonymous, so I really feel I feel like that should give you some incentive to be honest, and it's very helpful for us as well. Okay, so that'll be emailed to you. You should have that and you should have access to that. If you don't, please send me an email and let me know, and I'll try and fix that. Like I said, I'm not going to go into Project 3 intro and timeline, but I will say that not counting this week and not counting exam week, which we will not meet, we have 5 weeks left in the semester. So over the next 4 weeks, you're going to be working on and writing the last essay for the class, which is the position or argument essay. So in an attempt to cut down on your workload as we enter into the end of the semester, I know this isn't your only class. I know that this isn't probably your focus class. A lot of you have different majors. A lot of you are getting ready to go into the sciences, nursing school, law school, whatever. So what I've done is I've reduced sort of extraneous assignments or videos, and I've pared it down to as basic as I can get it for the rest of your semester. So it's going to be important that you refer from now on to the timeline that I've sent you in an email and I've put on Canvas instead of the syllabus, because the timeline is what is going to reflect what's on Canvas, okay? And like I said, be sure that you're watching that video that goes through those in depth, which is going to be separate from this video, and that you save it and you can come back to it if you need to be refreshed. All right, so as we move into using rhetoric and using our analysis skills to write our own argument, to write our own position, we're now moving from the stance of analyzing others' arguments and using what we know about rhetoric to help our own argument be persuasive. So what we've done is for this section that you'll have, the first 2 assignments that you'll do is you're going to read through both sets of arguments. So you'll have reading cluster 1, which is going to focus on free collegiate education. I know that's a big topic, and it's one that's probably relevant to a lot of us right now. And I thought it would be interesting that might be something you could be vested in. For those of you who wanted something that was a little bit lower stakes, you didn't want to get all into, something that was close to you right now, I included reading cluster 2, which is about the daylight saving time. It's a big discussion about whether or not we need to stay in daylight saving time and stop switching, or stay in standard time and stop switching, or keep switching. And so that's what reading cluster 2 is about. So what you're going to do is over the next 2 weeks, you're going to read through all of those articles. Now don't get scared. When I say all of those articles, I think they total like 7. And they're very short. They're from reputable news sites where they're reporting new scientific discoveries or new positions made because of this health statement or because of this political statement. And so they're relatively short. None are longer than 10 pages. And when I say 10 pages, I mean like they have the pictures on the page and it's easy to scroll through and at least skim through the articles relatively quickly and get the gist. So over the next 2 weeks, you're going to be becoming familiar with those articles, both reading clusters. Whichever one you feel like you want to write about, I want you to put that aside for right now, and we're going to practice identifying issues and claims and then listening to the argument before we assert our own position. So for our assignments that are due, they were originally due tomorrow, which I'm going to put those due on Saturday. Excuse me. You're going to read through all of the reading cluster 1 articles, and you're going to think about the claims being made. You're going to think about the manner of argument, and then you're going to think about where you stand on the issue, because this is a potential subject for your argument essay. So before you begin reading through these clusters, you will know the subject beforehand, right? You know that it's either free college education or you know that it's either daylight saving time. Those are the issues. So stop and think about your own predisposition towards the issue. Are you already for or against it? Why? Are you aware that it is an ongoing debate? What if your feelings are largely ambivalent towards the issue? So all of these are possible things that you might be experiencing before you start reading these articles. What I want you to know is that identifying these predispositions is going to make reading through the articles in an objective way more possible for you. You can say, okay, look, I already know I kind of lean towards free college education. But I want to make sure that I'm giving the other person a chance, not necessarily a chance to change your mind, but a chance for you to listen and get all of the aspects of the argument down. That way you can address those aspects and say why they are not true if you are for it, or why they are true if you are, why they are true if you're for it, and why they aren't true if you are not for it. Okay, so hopefully you've watched the Project 3 video first, and you've kind of gotten the gist of what this paper is about. There are questions that are listed to help you start thinking more about how to write a position or argument essay based on these subjects. And some of those questions I've pulled into the next 2 discussion boards you're going to do. And those are the questions you're going to practice answering for both of these subjects. That way, when you come down to having to decide which issue you want to tackle in your argument essay, you know, hey, maybe I've written more about this subject than I thought I would, and that's probably the subject that you need to go with because it is something that came easy to you to write about. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have sort of an investment in that subject, right? It might surprise you. Maybe you really don't care anything about daylight saving time, and maybe you care a lot about this free college thing, but you find that it's coming easier to you to write about the daylight saving thing. That's why I want you to do both of them, because not only is it giving you practice to identify those claims and issues and listen to both conversations and both sides of those conversations, but it's also helping you see what's going to be easier for you to write on, what's going to flow more organically for you, what's going to flow more naturally for you. And that's important because this paper is the longest paper that you'll write for me this entire semester. So whereas our last two papers had to be a complete 4 pages, this paper has to be a complete 5 pages. So we're adding in 1 page. Okay, so make sure that you're thinking about that. Make sure that you're going ahead and starting the project off strong and putting forth the effort, because the more sustained effort that you have throughout the project, the easier it is for you to finish it, to cross that line, right? As opposed to kind of sliding by in the first part of the project and then having to put forth a great amount of effort and energy to finish the project. So think about that. I'm fixing to go into the questions that you'll have to answer. So the questions that you will be answering for me for both of these reading clusters can be kind of summed up in 7 parts. So first, I want you to identify what is the issue in these readings. So the issue is going to be relatively simple to answer, right? We know that the issue is either free or not college education and changing or not daylight saving time. Then I want you to get more specific. I want you to tell me what positions the authors take on that issue and why. So that's going to ask you to look at the articles and split them up. This article author says this one says this, and this one says this. And then tell me why. What is the basis of their evidence? Now, you're going to do that because that's going to help you break down each article and kind of summarize what each article has to say about the issue. And when you choose a topic to write about, you can go back to this and say, oh, I already know, I've already summed up who says what, and I think I can use this article better than I can use this one. Does that make sense? So you'll already have that work done before you come into writing the actual essay. The next one is, what is your position? And this is after you read. So I'm not hoping to change your mind about anything. I don't know your predisposition, but I do know that sometimes when we read something a little bit more closely, we can have a change of mind or a change of heart. It's important to identify that and identify what helped you change your thinking towards that issue. You can use that in your essay as a part of your argument. It's very effective to see someone say, look, I initially thought this, but because of this evidence and this evidence, I now think this, right? So be looking for that in your reading through these articles. Okay, number 4, how do the readings in the cluster relate or differ? Go ahead and line out, how are they all relative? Is there something that they all agree on? Is there a piece of evidence that each of them uses in a different way? What about the differences? How do the authors approach the argument in different ways? Are they using more statistics? Are they using more of an appeal to your emotions or values? Are they using the ethos of who they are to convince you? Write down how they relate and how they differ.